Hey Chris, Happy New Year. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello.
I can hear you now. Can you hear
Ah,
me? Perfect.
all right.
All right, Happy New Year, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm very busy today. I just had two fans here in my house who picked up records from me that they bought. Very nice.
You brought a lot of merch from Europe.
As much as I could, let's say, not so much.
Yeah. All right. Is that sold out already?
What I brought is sold. Yeah, I sold everything in one day here in Brazil.
Cool.
Uh, you are in Brazil too, right?
I'm Brazil, I'm Brazil.
Yeah, so you can imagine how the situation is here. So this was a bit. They were very very happy to have these things available for the one day.
Everything that we buy from Europe and United States, the shipping is twice the price of the product, so
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
usually.
yeah. It's very crazy. And the guys that were here, they were very happy to meet me, and I was happy to meet them also because I don't see so many fans in real life at the moment. So it's nice to speak in the real world with someone.
Awesome. First of all, thanks a lot for joining me. That's an honor having you here. For real. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Let's begin. You just came back from Europe. You have a vacation there, right?
Yes.
And how was that?
Yeah, we decided spontaneously to have a bit of a change of scenery because yeah, you know how Brazil is, the heat and the craziness.
Yeah.
You have to escape if you can. It's nice to escape for a moment, and so we went to my homeland to Germany for some weeks and have a winter vacation basically in snow and ice. It's very
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially in Minas Gerais, it's quite hard to find it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit a crazy hot
Which
time
city are you living right now?
in Passos
Passos. I've never been there.
in the south of Minas. Yeah,
My mother was born in Minas Gerais.
ah, nice. Where are you?
I am Curitiba, south of Brazil.
Ah, okay.
It's
Yeah,
close to São
okay.
Paulo a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Close. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nothing is close in
In
Brazil.
Brazilian term, it's close. Yeah, yeah. For a German conception, it's not close.
6
Yeah.
hours by ride. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
begin. In July last year, finally did a concert with Fuzz Sagrado opening for Clutch in São Paulo. Could you talk a
Yes.
bit about this experience for us?
Yeah, it took me quite a while to have a band basically as the first step because Fuzz Sagrado started and still is basically a solo project and will also in a way remain a solo project because the recording process and the songwriting process I don't really feel a need to share or to have too many people participate. But I also want to play live, and I was looking for people to play those songs that I create live. And I found them, and we managed to play one show, which is not easy in Brazil at the moment. I only managed to have this pretty cool show in a way because of my contacts to Abraxas Productions, which is not really maybe you heard the name before.
I know them, I know them.
Yeah, it's basically friends of mine over the years, and they're not very active anymore, which is unfortunate.
Yes, they brought a lot of
Uh,
bands in the past.
yeah, they brought some really cool bands here, and they what you have to really credit them for is that they basically built up a network here of like-minded people, let's say, and they made something, they created something very cool that now at the moment does not really exist anymore because of all the difficulties from the, let's say, pandemic troubles, etc. Right? Many venues had to close. Many things work differently these days, and so it was. very fortunate, let's say, that we had this concert, and was cool, was really nice to play after such a long time. I I think I had a break of almost 5 years not playing live, and so this was very, very, very special also for me.
Cool. Thank you. I follow a timeline now. I want to get back to the very beginning. I want to know how you got into music, which influences you had back at home when you were a kid, and which instrument you learned how to play first. If you still have memories from that period.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm not so I'm old, but not so old yet.
You're not that old, yeah.
I remember everything. So the earliest beginnings, but I mean, I started as a child already with playing guitar because it was like my father's wish, or how to say, he wanted that I learn an instrument as a child, and so I didn't really know where to start, which instrument to pick at all. But my mother basically played a bit of guitar, so I thought, okay, let's try with this, and I started playing guitar at age 10 or 9 or 10, I think. And I played like classical music and folk songs in music school for 6 years until I was 16, and really discovered music. Before I was not really into music at all. I have to say I was just playing the instrument because, yeah, because my father kind of forced me into playing this. And from being 16, I really discovered music. I really fell in love with like metal music and rock music in particular. I just told the story, which will be funny for you. I think the first album that I actually bought was Sepultura Roots
Hell
in
yeah.
1996. So this is very kind of funny that I ended up living in Brazil, right? Because the first music that I sort of fell in love with was kind of Brazilian music.
That was that was the destiny, I guess.
Yeah, could say so, right? The Roots album, if you remember, had a lot of tribal influences, and was a very particular album at the time. Um, and this was my first real CD that I bought actually, and and from there only growing and growing and going into all kinds of territories, from metal to rock to 70s rock. I had a long period in my life where I like to discover like pretty much everything meaningful from the 70s. First, all the hard rock albums, to also soul and folk and whatever kind of style. I'm a kind of music encyclopedia. I don't know. I really love music, so I have all kinds of music that I listened to in the last 30 years now, since then.
And how did you find out that you were attracted by instrumental, sort of experimental progressive music?
I cannot tell you honestly. This is maybe funny. This is always kind of like a funny thing that the music that I make, I don't really listen to this kind of music. For example, you could maybe think that I listen a lot to like psychedelic or krautrock or this stoner styles, but my own music is, I know it's just coming out of me in a way, and the music that I listen at home is completely different in a way, at least now at the moment. So I'm basically listening to more hard rock and more music that is well structured, let's say. Like I really like big choruses, like Beatles kind of chorus that really sticks to your head. And the music I make is a kind of a weird and quirky crowd rock that, who knows where it comes from, right? It's just what is inside of me that has to get out probably, and or maybe it's a lack of talent. I don't know that
No way.
deep down inside of me I want to make other music. I don't know, but I don't think so. I just I don't know. It's something funny. It's a contradiction somehow.
I got to tell you that last year I had the honor to have Damo Suzuki here from Canada, and he
Okay,
answered me like exactly the same thing.
really,
That it was just out of hand.
really
That they
cool.
never wanted to follow anything.
Yeah, nice. I met him only once a long time ago, but not really talk a lot. We played with Damo Suzuki Experience,
Experience project exactly.
yeah, was like a jam project with many different musicians involved, and we played with Samsara after him. I think he played right in front before us, and was pretty. I just remembered this these days actually because he passed away recently, right? Only last
Yeah,
year.
I think it was beginning of last year.
A very particular person in the German or in the world discography also, right? This is was very
It's a living legend. Yeah.
a legend, yeah.
Okay, else. Okay, let's move to Samsara. I want to know how you met the guys and how you founded the band in 2007.
Yeah, I founded the band, right? I founded it in a kind of as a kind of side project back then. In 2007, right? I was still in another band, Terraplane, and the band was kind of, or everything was in a kind of a time of change. I was in a change. I felt like things had to change, and so I founded it as a jam project initially. Actually, we were really playing very free jams, and it was really an experiment back then. Not what it was in the end, but in the beginning, it was really like more experimental and very or not at all structured, which made this be this contradiction to my personal music taste, right? But I felt like I wanted to play this. I think I at this time back then I also discovered Earthless. The first Earthless albums were like coming out in this period, and I wanted to do something kind of similar. And so I started this jam project, and it was in a different era. It was not area. It was not in Berlin yet. I was living in the middle of Germany still, and but at the same time, I was like in a process of moving away and going to Berlin. And so I took this initial idea and project with me to Berlin, and but had to find new band members basically because the first band or project members they didn't want to go with me, and we were not very flexible at this time. I moved only 200 kilometers away, right? Is in Brazilian terms, this is Pertinho.
Yeah.
But like I thought, but in German conception, this was very far at the time. I had a car and everything, but it was just not in our minds to continue over this distance. And so I moved to Berlin and was looking for new band members for quite some time. I took me like about a year to find the guys that I ended up with in a way that played with me until pretty much the end of the band. Before I played with a lot of people. To, in a band, you have to find out is the guy somehow fitting into the chemistry of the band? Is he good at playing his instrument? Also, there were
Yes.
some beginners, right? There were some bass. I think I had like 5 or 6 bass players
Oh
in
shit.
one year. Yeah, and they were all kind of nice guys, but not all of them could really play bass.
It happens.
And all yeah, it happens, and it, but it was all still very much an experiment until I found the right people. with Richard first, Richard Behrens, and Thomas Werder, pretty much in the same period. I found these two guys, and it clicked like immediately. We played one rehearsal, and I was like sure these were the guys I was looking for. And we went for. I still had a second guitar player also. So we were four people actually at this time. The fourth guy was Italian guy that was like a friend of my ex-wife at the time, and also a nice guy, all nice guys, but he didn't really fit in the band, and so I went from there. We continued for a while as a three-piece with Richard and Thomas, which not many people know, I think, because in this period we were not really playing live yet, but we recorded a demo, which was pretty successful in the internet. Like it became a little internet success at the time. There was like MySpace and file sharing things. I forgot the name. I think Rapid. There was some the beginnings of the internet stuff,
Yeah.
where you could share your music through some obscure servers, and we shared music, and then we didn't care about money or whatever, we just wanted to like start out and make a bit of a name for ourselves. And because I already at this point in the beginning of Samsara, I already played like 10 years in a band. So I had a bit of experience with recording, with releasing, with playing live, and I knew um, that there were certain sacrifices also to make if you wanted to go somewhere with your music, which was giving stuff for free. Who should buy a demo from a band that he doesn't know, right? So
Yes.
I I decided to give it away for free, and we sold like self-burned CDRs on when we played live later on. We played our first concerts, and we burned CDs like how it was in the early 2000s, right? You basically you produced your own CD uh, with a like a self-printed label and a copied cover and yeah, it's
DIY stuff.
just yeah, to total DIY mentality, and in a kind of way, you could romanticize this today. It was very funny. It's like analog digital mix, early early DIY internet times.
Yeah, and it's a different feeling, I guess.
It was a bit. I don't know if bands of new bands know anything about like those old times when I mean I come from a time when bands sent out like self-burn CDs, or actually before we made cassette tapes that we copied, that we sent out to venues, to clubs, to get concerts. So this is something that maybe young bands have no clue about. They think it was like something cool back then, but I can tell you it was like horrendous. It was like ridiculous. We made like 100 copies of tapes or whatever, and send them out without knowing what happens if we get a concert, or that this tapes ended up in somebody's trash can, or you know. So yeah, that this was the time, but anyway, in those days, we started with Samsara in a very like in a very old school DIY way. We tried to get our first concerts. I was fortunate, let's say, because I was always active, or for a long time active in this scene, in this stoner rock psychedelic scene. I'm active since basically since the millennium. I was having a online magazine also, and I drew some posters for other bands. I designed posters, so I had a lot of or some significant contacts already. at the time when I started with Samsara, so I could tell those contacts, hey, I have a band now. Do you want to check it out? And so it was a bit easier for me because I was not starting at complete zero, you
Yes.
know. So, for example, there were some early festivals in Europe, like Yellowstock in Belgium. They had me did draw some of their posters in the years before Samsara started. And when I had Samsara, finally, when I had my band, I could just like write to the guy and say, "Hey, I have my own band now, and would you be interested to have us play on the festival?" And this was very fortunate at the time, so we had like a good start, you know. And then things from there went just all the time growing in a way. It was really organic, and I had very nice contacts from the beginning on already. So this was cool in a way, you know, because I was always very, very active with a lot of things. I was really passionate about this scene,
Awesome.
if you want to call it that this way, because yeah, back then it was very small. It was much smaller than it got like in the last years. It grew a bit, right? But it was a very, very like the let's say the significant people you could meet within 1 week on the internet. So, for example, I could write to the Roadburn maker Walter. Walter, I knew him. I knew the guys from Stone from the Underground Festival. I knew many labels also, and yeah, so I was very well connected already.
All right. In my scripts, I got to talk about my favorite albums, and this time I picked Long Distance Trip, of course.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a bit about how was writing and producing this masterpiece?
How we produced it. Um, So some songs from the long distance trip, like Singata Mystic Queen, was actually a song that we had already, or that I had already with me. I brought from my other band that I had before, which was called Terraplane. Or actually, it was like written in an in-between phase, but with my ex-bands. So it was an old song. I brought also some other tunes like Double Freedom. It was a home recording that I had, and they just turned out this long, actually, because in the early days, to be honest, when we played live, we didn't have so many songs. And when you don't have so many songs, what do you do to come to, like, let's say you have to play 40 minutes,
You jam.
you jam. So, so Double Freedom is a classic jam track that just turned out this what it is because of this necessity to fill up a full show, let's say. Um, and we kind of mastered this art of jamming on our first touring experiences, which were our actually our first long real tour was in the United States, which is very unique in a way because we were like nobody still. I mean, the band was really unknown. And but through early social media, there were some people in California who discovered us, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to play some concerts here in California?" And it was like back at those times, it was the most ridiculous thing, you know, because there was not cheapo flights or whatever you had later on. There was not this worldwide connection yet. You have to imagine, we were still sitting in Berlin in this small rehearsal room, and there was someone writing on the early social media like this kind of things, and you were like mind blown, right? This was something unheard of at the time, that a total newcomer DIY band plays in the United States, a tour. And so we arranged this tour somehow. And on this tour, basically, this is what I always say, the long distance album became what it is. So there were some songs that we played on this tour that were not even finished yet. Like Center of the Sun also was like maybe half of the song was finished and the rest was a jam. And but yeah, actually, while you mentioned Damo Suzuki, there was some krautrock vibe going on. There were people coming to the shows in the States that were basically just coming because they saw a German band is playing, and then they had probably this kind of expectation already, and we completely delivered in a way this what they expected, and so this was all very fortunate, and but it was not planned. And to be honest with you, I still often wonder why the long distance trip album is it became what it is, because there's nothing on the album is like made on the intention to be like a masterpiece or whatever. It was just we had this is what we had and we recorded it, and people, I don't know, until this day they kind of fall for it and find it very appealing, and this is somehow crazy, in a way, because we were also very naive. I can honestly say we were all very naive. I was the only one in the band who had a bit more experience. The other guys, they were all very, very naive. They were very young also. The second guitar player was only 19 years old, and the other guys were like in their early 20s and with next to no experience of even playing in a band. And it just everything fit, I guess, somehow together. But also in a way, there's a lot of my particular passion at the moment, at this moment in time for this kind of music. I was just really in love with psychedelic music, and I think you can hear this. Um, there's really, I think I played sometimes like three layers of lead guitar on this album, so this is very far out, crazy stuff. And we didn't we didn't think so much. Also, the guys were very, like I said, they were very new to everything, and I was like the leader. Let's say I was the musical director. I could tell them, "Hey, this is what I want. Let's do it." And later on, we all were thinking too much, perhaps. So the albums were all somehow particular albums, but because of the success of this first album, um, there was a big thinking machine starting after. And I don't know. I always said we should have made at least one more album, a bit more loosely structured, but it never happened. So Long Distance Trip remains a very particular album in my whole career also, because it was very free in a way, right? So
Yeah, and so maybe it crystallizes the freedom that you guys were living back in the moment, I guess.
yeah, yeah, and we recorded in a very simple way. Like we recorded on a MacBook, which was at the time, I was still, like I said, I'm like Gen X, born in the 80s, very, very early 80s, almost 70s. So I come from a time when this was unheard of, that a band can produce an album on a fucking MacBook. This was like something completely ridiculous. I was in before I used to go to recording studios where like my first recording experiences were on ADAT. Like this is like a cassette tape format, and you sat in front of a huge mixing desk and everything. And now suddenly a band had the freedom to produce an album like on a computer. This
Pretty
this was
much at
crazy.
home as well.
Yeah, pretty much. We recorded the vocals in Richard's dorm room. Like he lived in this dorm with another guy, um, and it was ridiculous in a way. The album is so low budget in the end, and it but People love it. It's completely. I cannot tell more. You will laugh because it's really we recorded, but we had the freedom to record when we felt like, this is why it also took quite some time to record it. Like when I had a spark of idea, I could record, and then we had no pressure from nothing. There was no expectation. We were just completely new, and so these are all added also to the making of the album, and yeah, it was funny. It was. I mean, this album, it's sold like tens of thousands copies, which is crazy in this like still small scene. Is also for me to 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 imagine this, how many copies have been printed of this album. We actually lost track of this, um, but it's still going, and this is very, very crazy, very crazy.
The cover of the album is super cool as well.
Yeah, yeah, everything kind of fit. It was like the cover is this Art Nouveau drawing that also inspired if you look at some of the concert posters of the 60s, a lot of them were inspired from Art Nouveau, which is was a short period in the early 20th century when they were just drawing women, basically just women and flowers. And so this fits to psychedelic rock, right? Women and flowers and hippie stuff, and so it's all a fitting concept in a way, right? So,
All right, let's move to the pandemic. Back when Samsara fell apart and you decided you wanted to move to Brazil, could you talk a bit about this moment of your life?
yeah, I can try.
Yeah.
It was in a way. I mean, we all had our own problems. Everyone had his or her problems in this time, right? So this pandemic. In that time, I already was in a long distance relationship with a Brazilian woman. And when this whole thing started, this pandemic, um, I was in Brazil actually, and I used to spend the European winters here in this time.
Now you do the opposite.
The opposite to what I was doing right now, exactly. It's a bit funny. Yeah. And yeah, so I had to go back to Berlin because we had our album recording session already booked in the studio. We had a booked studio time, and I had to go back to 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 get into the process of recording the album, and everything was very weird. For me it was all very weird. I cannot say something different. It was just very, very weird. um in the time before, I had a few illnesses myself. I had a rather shitty illness the year before, in 2019. I went through surgery. And so this kind of topics with illness and health, I was very sensitive to this all my life, basically. I lost my mom very early in my life to cancer. She died very young. And I was always very aware of health issues and illness. So just to tell why this was kind of weird, this pandemic, how it all started. Like suddenly everyone told me how to wash my hands or how to behave in a situation, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? As if I never learned how to wash my hands, or Or why the fuck is the German Telecom telling me to stay healthy? They don't care about if I'm healthy or what. They only want me as their customer. Yeah, and it was all a bit ridiculous for me this whole time. So I returned from Brazil and I saw already people on the airport like masked up and in gloves, and I was like, what's going on here? I saw also some videos about things happening in China or wherever. But I was at no point was I scared or all this anxiety that had to follow. And so I went back to my I still had an apartment in Berlin. I went back to my apartment and we had the first rehearsal in Berlin, and the guys started to behave very, you know, different, extremely cautious of everything. I mean, I can understand everything. I don't want to make play it small or whatever, but it was very, very odd this time, and for me in particular. And at some point, I think it was the second rehearsal that we had a huge kind of discussion. And of course, this was a time when no one really knew what was about to happen, right? What was this pandemic? There was no talk yet of pandemic. It was just a virus, a new virus, whatever. And I was, yeah, okay, a virus, okay, a virus. Um, and yeah, basically we had a lot of discussions. Also because of this, we the other guys sort of refused to rehearse. um, there was a uncertainty uh, if the law actually allowed rehearsals. It was very odd, very, very odd for me that like the government said uh, it's not allowed that more than three people meet or whatever, something like this, or two people actually, that two people, only two people should meet. And the exception was business. In a business situation, there was no restriction at all. And for me, at this point in my life, Samsara was a business. Why? Because I made a living from it. And the other two guys also earned a significant amount of money. Cannot, yeah, this is a fact that Samsara at this point in our career was a business also. It was not just a DIY band anymore. It was still a DIY band in a way. Yeah. But it was also business. And so, in my understanding, there was no problem for us to rehearse and record an album. That actually also was a business situation because producing an album in a recording studio costs money. It provides for a living of someone, the owner of the studio, the recording engineer. And so, for me, there was no, I didn't understand it honestly. And for the other two guys, which was actually one of the big problems. They never understood this new situation that Samsara was not just a hobby band or some sort of fun thing that we did. It was a bit more like let's say, serious thing, right? So, like I said, for me, it provided a significant amount of my living. I mean, so, and the studio time was booked, and but the other guys refused to rehearse. So this was like, but this was, to be honest with you, this was just the tip of the iceberg. There were other things that I didn't like and I couldn't solve with them. Um, all in the end, small misunderstandings or problems, yeah, but also small things add to a mountain of problems. So after 12 years, I think every band that comes to this point, I mean, many bands don't even make it that long, right? Uh, Playing together 12 years, the people we develop in different directions somehow also, and it was very, very difficult to arrange this album actually. And so at this point, like we're talking about March or April 2020, the band was in a very bad shape. Very, very bad. Actually, it was like we didn't rehearse. I was in Berlin. I could not be in Brazil, obviously. I was in Berlin alone in my apartment. I could not rehearse. And basically, I went crazy a little bit, right? I mean, in a not want to say too much dramatic way, but it was crazy. I was sitting there and wondering, what the fuck am I doing here? I cannot understand why we three young, healthy men could not rehearse, record an album, and behave in a bit calm way. You know, it was all a bit anxious and too much at this time. I mean, yeah, this added a lot to many. You know, there was many divorces and bands breaking up in this time, so that we were not like something unique in that regard. And so, but somehow we managed to record the album. I think in April or May, the restrictions got a bit more like we could live again in a way. Um, so we could manage to rehearse again and make a new appointment in the studio. But at this point, the band was still in a bad shape. We were not happy, let's say. I already also decided that I want to leave Germany for at least a while because in Berlin I had the same situation that I had or a similar situation that I had before with my ex-band before. You know, I already felt like there needs to be a change in my life. Otherwise, this will not be good, you know. There are moments, I think, in everyone's life when you can feel this, when you can feel, oh, something has to change, or yeah, this will not be good because this is just like the life is change in a way. We all need this at some point somehow. Sometimes we can feel this, and this was again a situation like that. And but to be honest, I no one of us like said, hey, we want to quit everything. We also communicated to the outside, to social media, etc. We always said we were in a hiatus, yeah, in a break, which was also what I believed until last year, that we were in this sort of hiatus, uh, which again was after a misunderstanding for the other two guys. There was never a hiatus, is what I learned last year. For them, it was like the end already. For me, it was like, I don't know. The only thing sure was I want to leave Germany, which, but in a way, you know, there are many bands that work on two continents. Like this exists. It's not something unheard of. And yeah, it's all a very, very difficult situation still, to be honest. I for myself, I would like to come back in a way or another, and the other guys not so much, or at least there's some tension among the people still, you know. Um, Me and one guy in particular, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's very, very difficult situation, and but it was not really foretell able, or how do you say, you could not foresee how all this would develop. I just really wanted to record this album, the last album, and we managed, but yeah, it was not a very happy time at all. It's still difficult, like I said. Is I'm aware of my own mistakes that I made. I had a moment of going a bit crazy because I can be very emotional about things that that I do, or that touch my personality, you know, so much, like the band, like this is my baby in a way, you know. This is really, I created most of this. I was the label in the end. I mean, I released the albums on my label. I made PR and all this bullshit. Sorry, but there's a lot of work in the background that I made. I created the lyrics, of course, and most of the music and the artworks also. There's a lot of this is my baby, and it's kind of slipped away, and this is sad, and I can totally understand that for the other two guys that were with me all those 12 years that there's a similar feeling in a way, but yet it's different.
But it's
So
still very recent, I would say.
yeah, you could say, but don't forget it's now almost 5 years that have gone, 5 years of break that in my opinion are a long time. It's a long time, 5 years. I mean, I released like, I don't know, 5 albums since then on other names. And time goes by fast. And I'm almost like 45 now. This year I will be 45 years old. And you feel your age also, and I get a bit anxious sometimes. I would really like to play again. Last year, this concert was very, very good for me. Like I said, was really good, and I would like to continue there, but it's very difficult. It's not become easier to play live here or there. Here in Brazil is more difficult than in Europe, of course, but also in Europe it has become more difficult to play good shows, to get a decent payment. You have to talk about this. I cannot play for gas money.
Yes.
Right? I have to get there first of all. I have to come to Europe. This is expensive. And this whole operation, I mean, you have to rent a car, you have to rent equipment because don't have equipment in Europe anymore. You have expenses. Playing live costs money, first of all, also. It's not that. And this is also something I think not many people who are not in the business or who are not playing in bands they even think about this, how much you have to do, first of all, to have an album or to have a tour. Nowadays, I feel like some people think like this is all our hobby and we love this and then they give you like sometimes I put the album on Bandcamp on pay what you want and then there's people who give you 50 cents for an album. Like, what the fuck is in your head? I mean, okay, I give it for free. Yeah, they blame me for being so stupid, let's say. But like I said in the beginning, I also wanted people to listen to my music. So I sometimes I have like these kind of ideas that for a month or so, I put an album on Pay What You Want on Bandcamp, and then there's people who give you 50 cents, and then I say, man, I don't know, take it for free.
It's quite disrespectful, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is completely disrespect. Take it for free. This is no problem. Then I don't see who you are. You get it for free. No objections. It's all good. But giving me 50 cents, and from these 50 cents, there's a PayPal amount that I have to pay, and the fucking Bandcamp fee that I have to pay. So in the end, I get like 19 cents for album.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then if you at least give me like €3 or whatever, but if you want to give something, but if you don't want to give something, then take the album and enjoy is also good. But these 50 cents, they make something of you, then you sit there and think like, yeah, what I do is a joke, you know?
Yeah.
So this were my pandemic years in a nutshell when I was recording at home, releasing stuff because I couldn't play live. I had no band, but there was also no opportunity to play. And then I tried to build up a new, let's say, existence with Fuzz Sagrado, and the first album I gave for pay what you want in the first month or first 2 months. I don't remember for a while. And then there were people coming and giving me 50 cents, and I was like, man, what are we doing here? You know, that's a mentality that I don't really understand, and that this mentality somehow is something new that I didn't see like pre-pandemic. People always at least gave me 1 or 2 euros when I did this stuff. Uh, and now it's like nothing is, I don't know, it's a weird time somehow, It's sometimes I feel like, what am I doing here? This is you know, it's not like this. I mean, we all have to live from something also, and this is for me has always been more than just a hobby, I think, in the end. I mean, there were times when I couldn't really expect anything also, to be honest. Like in the early 2000s, what I told you, there was also a difficult time. It's not that that is the first time now that is difficult for me, but I don't know. There was more communication also in it, more direct communication. Nowadays it's all social media, or you feel like it's all social media, and there's not even websites anymore, and some people don't even care anymore to say hello, or like I mean, maybe I'm very old school, but when someone writes an email to me, isn't polite to say at least hello, and I mean,
Yeah,
you know, sometimes it's like, hey dude, blah blah blah, and I'm like, man, what's this? What kind of way of addressing people? So
those are strange times for sure.
it's a strange time, but I mean, we live in this time, and there's a lot of good people out there, and I don't want to sound too negative. I'm not one of those people also who say, oh, it used to be so much better. No, it was not much better. We had good times and we had bad times, and this is a bit a difficult time, and that's all, I think. And we still have a lot of opportunities nowadays. Like I said, we can produce albums by ourselves. We can distribute albums by ourselves. We don't need labels in a way. We don't need to sell out or give away our artists' products. Like recently, another story, and I know I talk a lot, but let me share the story. I just released 4 songs with Fuzz Sagrado in December. I just released these 4 songs by myself, like what I do most of the time, right? I produce my stuff myself nowadays, and I released by myself. And before doing this, there was the thought of releasing it on a label from Italy, and it was all very nice. We had a nice conversation up to some point. He told me, this is cool. I like it. It's even better than Samsara, whatever. And I was hyped. I was euphoric. And I thought, this will be really cool. And at some point, he just like in a side sentence dropped something that was a complete no-go for me. Because what did he say to me? If you want to release a vinyl on my label, I will take half of your digital money. And I said, what? You want to you want to put out like 300 records, because this is the number nowadays. They make 300 records, and I get a bit of percentage from this, 15% to be precise. And on the other hand, you want half of what I earn until my life is over, basically, or until the internet is over, whatever. But yeah, until this music is online, you want half of my income? What? And so, you have to be very careful these days what's going on. And there's ridiculous things going on, ridiculous things. And I don't know if other bands are so naive that they don't see things like this, because these things happen all the time, I think. That there's a label somewhere that 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 wants that offers you such ridiculous conditions. I mean, it's unheard of. I said, like, what? And end of conversation. Yeah, and so what I wanted to say, nowadays, this is not such bad times. Like, Not all is bad nowadays. We, as artists, we have the freedom to release what we want, when we want, how we want. So, but you have to understand this, of course, also. You have to read a bit, get informed, but it's also not something like super crazy, but it's something that you can find out in one day of work, how to release my music online. And then you do it. And then you collect like 100% or 90%, because sometimes the distributors, they want a percentage, but never half of your money. So, so this
That's
is
absurd.
it's absurd, yeah, but these things happen, This is crazy. And this guy from the label, he knows me because I'm not a no one. I'm not like, Mr. XY, um, never heard of a newcomer. So this is again very disrespectful. So, but we learn from all of this, In the end, we learn, and so I released these songs myself after like some months of like uncertainty and weird, and I said, hey, come on, I for myself don't necessarily need a vinyl record, and when it's in any way released for now and maybe later on, there will be other options, not everyone will offer you some bullshit like this. So, but it's a crazy time. It's a great, yeah, no, you just have to be patient. You are Brazilian, you know how it is. Patience is everything.
To end this interview, I want to know what are your plans for the future for this year that has just started.
Yes, I really, in a way, hope to come back to playing live. I I am not giving up yet. The situation is difficult, but I try, and I just hope that it will happen. And other than this, I record a lot of music, and I will release quite some music this year. I released an album today, actually, a vinyl album on a German labels or two German labels. I released it today, or on pre-order today, and there will be two other LPs coming out soon in April. And yeah, will be busy year one way or another. And but my most like what is on number one, I think, is the two coming back playing live would be really cool. I can only hope that it happens at this time, but yeah, would be my goal number one this year.
And luckily, you're gonna play here in Curitiba. We have a couple of cool
Yeah,
venues.
it would be very nice, very, very nice. I really like playing in Brazil, it's always something very special here. But it's a like a huge contradiction. You have a lot of fans, but not a lot of good bookers. Is my opinion. You have a lot of passionate people for music, like you probably are yourself passionate for music. But organizing a concert, a decent concert, seems something very difficult. I don't know why. I for myself, I don't want like crazy things. I don't expect crazy amounts of money or whatever. Just a decent show. I don't know what's the problem. And yeah, the distance is a problem, of course. It's fucking long to drive all the time. Sometimes you cannot even drive. You have to take a plane or whatever. But it's also not impossible. Like Abraxas showed, it is not impossible to organize something. So there needs to be someone who continues this, I guess. Or I don't know. I would really like to play much more in Brazil as well.
Yeah, there's a stuff people usually can't afford that many tickets and the equipments in the venues are bad and the things are pretty far from each other. We have like thousands and thousands of problems and also I think the country itself doesn't see the musician as a real professional, It can be very disrespectful in many ways.
Yeah, yeah. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. I played huge shows here in Brazil, like in Belo Horizonte. I played, we played in front of 600 people or what. This is huge for me. This is for a club show. This is really like for such a kind of music. This is amazing. I mean, we played big shows in Europe too, but here also the energy and everything is great. There were people who were singing the riffs. I mean, what,
It's
you are
Brazil.
like, that's insane. And you wonder, hey, why don't you take this energy and work it out? I mean, what's going on? You in Europe, for example, you have a lot of squats, like illegal places who make concerts of underground music. Let's call it like this. And I don't know why not, or even I play shakaras, whatever. It should
In
be
Brazil, they
possible.
close all of those places, unfortunately. They pursue and close all of them. We have a lot here in Curitiba and they keep following and closing each one. It's very sad.
Yeah, then there needs, sometimes I do these posts on Instagram where I ask like questions in my funny Portuguese, I guess, uh, asking, hey, why are people not connecting here? Why is not a guy in Curitiba talking to a guy in Rio de Janeiro or in Sao Paulo, and let's make this network, and then let's keep this network. I wonder where are the people that worked with Abraxas? Where are they? I know where Felipe is, but I don't know where are the other people who were in Florianopolis or in Porto Alegre. I don't know. We have to build up some sort of network. I
A
don't know how.
network, yes.
Yeah, and then it's not on. I don't know. Maybe it's my obligation why I'm here to ask these questions. Maybe that is part of why I'm here, because I see bands and they play, but everyone is like cooking his own little dish. And but maybe it would be interesting for people to have a DIY. Is a DIY thing. You have to collect contacts, and you have to get into some sort of yearly rhythm. Let's say every year in March, I know there's this festival, then I play there, and then the next day I can play there, and I have my friends. Like I try to make contacts with other bands, but it's all very, very like not very well connected in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, maybe we could start a label or something like that and start booking tours all over the country.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Would be nice. It's a thing of meeting the right person at the right time. Also, I spoke with some people. There was a girl from Bahia who wanted to help us, but then things didn't work out, unfortunately. But we make some connections, and maybe it just needs again the right person at the right time, and then to have something. But then keep going. This is important. Keep going. Like for everyone. For me, I have had many difficult times, but I kept going and going.
That's the secret.
Yeah, yeah, this is the secret. Really, look at all the big bands that there are. Like, I don't want to say Metallica or whatever, but they all kept going, and they worked. They fucking worked a lot. You don't have to like them or what they do. They worked on this shit. They they worked like crazy. And that's why how things evolve.
Kris, once again, that was a huge honor having you here. Thanks a lot for joining me in this interview. I would like to send the last message to the people that will be listening to this interview and the Mr. Doom community.
I don't really have anything to tell. It's like all that I said until now. Take this, like, really take this time in particular, and see what is good, and don't see so much what is bad, because I think the times have always been difficult. I come from socialismo. I come from Alemania Oriental. So you cannot tell me so much about difficult times. I see a lot of shit in my life, so don't look so much also social media. You know, there's a lot of confusion, I think. So just be positive.